Yeah, as I saw in the program, this is a reflection. It is not an attempt to try to very short say everything what has been said today. What I would like to say is that I'm very impressed, of course, of what you are doing and what you try to do, and I'm occupied with you could talk about two different challenges. Also, one challenge is to try to help people in crisis, in life crisis, and to be able to help people in crisis is a very difficult task. Everywhere, it has nothing to do with psychiatry or healthcare. It is always difficult. But of course, if you have to talk about psychotic crisis, it is very difficult. And it has been solved in different ways, in different cultures, at all times, in different ways. If I think of the tradition we have in northern Norway with the Sami people, so what do you say, what do you call them? Also the original culture, so the Sami people in northern Norway. If someone behaved strange, the network was coming together, also the family, he was included in the family very closely, and they were together with him all day and night. It was very often the case. And then very often the person came out of this strange behavior. And I've heard very similar stories from Africa, as I was in South Africa. And but in the Western countries, it becomes a huge problem because you are suspected to be very rational. It is a very rational society, and you have to be able to solve a lot of problems. And if you then start to behave strangely, it is a very big problem for the society. So, I think this challenge of helping people in crisis, I mean, it is very important. It has to all times been very important. I think we are all concerned about that. And we could all need help in life. We all come into crisis. Hopefully not in such a severe crisis like psychotic crisis. We would not come, all of us, but we all need help. So that is the big challenge, I think, in open dialogue, how to help people inside the community, also inside, yeah. And I want to finish with that this challenge of helping people is especially big when you have to do that inside the established psychiatry system. Because the psychiatry system do not normally think that these are crises that are possible to get in life and normal to get in life and maybe very severe and maybe very difficult to help. But in the psychiatry system, you have a concept of diseases. You think people get the psychiatric diseases, and these diseases are very difficult to heal. And that is a very different way of thinking, and I think that is maybe the biggest problem for the open dialogue approach. Even bigger than this challenge, how to help people, is how to be able to help people within the psychiatric system.
If I can follow your what you said, and I think that it's, for me as a psychiatrist, it's kind of question about my identity. And according to Foucault, there is a question about biopower, how to deconstruct the power of psychiatrists, keeping the usefulness, or how to use psychiatrists to the psychiatric system or to those people who are suffering. And during today's conference, I heard about the treatment philosophy, as you said. We have the treatment philosophy full of mission, full of vision, enthusiasm, energy, a connection between our community. There are leaders, there are authorities. So why we are in minority? Maybe because the power of so-called biomedicine or biopower is so strong. And for me, it's the question what our community can make to keep it as an important challenge, not deconstructing to the bottom the psychiatric power, but making it more useful and following the patient's need, as you said about need and possibilities of our clients. Maybe I can stop at this moment.
I wonder if the word reconstruction would be more...
I said deconstruction.
Yes, I know. But maybe the word reconstruction, if we could just replace the deconstruction by reconstruction.
First we have to deconstruct, and then the next
reconstruct
step would
maybe,
be reconstructing
for instance,
in another shape.
Like following the idea of Dombrowski, I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe this was something.
It's close to Dombrowski's ideas, yes.
I like your point, what you made, Anders, about this very specific dilemma that it seems to be most challenging to help humans within psychiatry. And it's a very paradoxical situation in many ways. And of course, concerning the question of power. So power is only if I allow another one to affect my...
Circular.
Yes. And of course, there's a lot of aims within the psychiatry to take power, perhaps now more than before. Magnus, I don't know if he's here, in his presentation he taught about this package of treatment, that is a kind of system in Norway that through which they try to take a power of how the treatment is introduced. But nevertheless, I think that within the system, when we work, we always can make our own decisions. How do we work? How do we meet? And what do we actually do when we meet with clients who are in need? Then also another point that I've been thinking today is that, and also the day that we had yesterday, many of those people who are in a very big trouble to having help that they need, they do not fit to any categories of the psychiatry. They do not fit into this specific diagnosis, and if you do not fit into this specific diagnosis, you are left out of the system and really become chronic. But the idea that we have heard today is very much having a possibility to look at the life without this category or across these categories, and that's what I like. It's paradoxical because it's so self-evident, and people feel that very, very difficult. So,
I just wanted to agree on that. That I was also impressed that this attempt to try to help people without having to have them into very narrow diagnostic boxes.
For me, it was interesting what you have said, that on one hand, it seems that here, this day, we have met many resources. However, we are in the minority. And in my eyes, there are, in Europe at least, a few groups as our international network. There are people around Trieste. They will meet in 3 weeks 300 people enrolled at the meeting. There are people around around mental health Europe as well, 15 countries. We have had meeting in May. So why not to somehow find a synergy out of these international networks? This synergy will give us better influence on the decision makers, because there are decisions needed. What we are doing here in Poland, not to be a project, but be really a step-by-step reform with clear goal and money for that. And not only, I think not only about the reform as something very precise, but a huge work is to be done on the social society awareness. And this is something very, very important. So for me this day is a next step. I feel very good, and I am so glad that so many people are here, not only from Europe, world, but from Poland. So I perceive this day as an important step towards final solution.
If I may ask, what was the day for you?
The day. Yeah. I remember that it was the Greek philosopher Plinius the Older, I don't know how to say in English, Plinius, who said the only certain thing is uncertainty. And for physicians, for psychiatrists, this is a really huge challenge. I remember my study, and when I was the resident, that the only thing which I had to do was to follow the orders, to follow the algorithms, to know as soon as possible and to react as soon as possible. And all the ideas of Jaakko and previously of Tom Andersen was not to be sure, to have the question mark not only in the algorithm, but in the soul. And to have the question mark in the soul is the, I would say, spirit challenge, not only the techniques. It's the challenge which is not so easy to follow, to overcome. And I believe that in the society of psychiatrists, it could be the main obstacle for us to go this philosophy. I remember from when I was a young doctor, I found that the best relationship with patients had nurse, the best knowledge had psychologist, and the main power had physician. So it was the paradox, but I liked it because I was physician. So then I had to work on it, and that's my answer.
Thank you.
I also, it impressed me, it occupied me, I would say, that I heard that very many talked about this principle of not being sure as very important, and someone said, oh, but that is also very difficult, and that is, yeah. And of course, that is a very, very old principle. I mean, it goes back to the old skeptics in the ancient time, and the point by the skeptics was that if you try to know everything too exactly, you will not be happy in life.
Yeah. Marek Antonius said, so, we had only opinions, nothing more.
Yeah.
We had only opinions, nothing more.
Yeah, and that's also in our time in the philosophy of phenomenology. That's also a methodological principle, not to know things too quickly. As I mean, you put into brackets what you think you already know, to be able to experience, and to take time in experience and feeling and being moved, and then you might come to something differently. And if you think you should know at once everything, you will not be happy, and you are almost a danger for other people. So.
Jaakko, would you like to share something more?
I've been, of course, many things, but one thing that I've been thinking, it's also related with my own background and with my own experiences a long time ago when we started to make new practice. And when I look at the presentation, I counted that there were 6 talks. And for me, I was the only not psychiatrist in these presentations. So only one poor psychologist among these big psychiatrists who have a speech here. And then we hear all the time in the field that of course we could do this and that, but because the psychiatrists are not with us, so we cannot do anything. So it's a big hallucination. So that
as a common one.
I suppose that I don't know if most part, but perhaps one of the biggest professional group in here, for instance, are psychiatrists. So that we really have a big power that we give to someone else. And that was our experience also. It was a long time ago, and many things have changed in the society. I don't say that it's the same, but we could do everything that we wanted to do. Everything was in our hands. We only decided to do it. And I think that the same is for us now. So that perhaps not that big, but instead of complaining that we do not have enough resources, we do not have enough psychiatrists on our side, it's to make decision in a very concrete way and start to do things differently. But if we are too afraid of taking steps, so the professional life become very boring and frustrating, and in a way power is there if we take it, but if we leave it to some other one, so no one comes and say to you that I give you the power. You really need to take it.
So Jaakko, thank you for this very positive thought or remark. I am sure that we have taken we have influence on the decision makers here in Poland. The measure of this is the big project. There is a reform started, and for me, we are in the process. And I developed in myself over these years, last 15 years, I've developed the attitude that before we will see the final result, we need to be sure that today is the one step of something bigger. So I have in my eyes big change of the system.
I respect a lot what you say, Regina, all the time.
It's
and when you say that we have make impact to the decision makers, but my point of view is that we are the decision makers.
Okay.
We are the decision makers. I make decisions. And it's of course, the politicians make their decision, but I do decisions of my work and my daily life and everything.
So I'd say that your position is more existential, and she's a self-made prophecy. That
Samospełniająca się przepowiednia, że jak ty chcesz, tak będzie, to będzie.
Yes, but she has something like that. Yes, whatever she thinks.
But I don't think do we have time for one comment?
Please.
Because we are talking about the professional communities and obstacles and challenges. We didn't mention about the other side. I would say the outside community, and I think that it's another important problem, the stigmatization. Because in the average member of the community, there is a kind of anxiety against the inner other. And it can create the process of stigmatization, it can create the process of exclusion our clients. So maybe this is another much more political issue, how to be open not only in our community, our, I would say, inner community, but to those who are outside and who are against those who are others.
I would like to say a little thing to that. I think to not to exclude the others, psychiatric patients, for instance, is not always a matter of not wanting to exclude them. It's very often so that we exclude them without wanting. I had some years ago in Tromsø a doctoral student. She was a nursing teacher, and she wanted to interview psychiatric patients. And she told me she had met a young man, or maybe he was not that very young anymore, but in the psychiatric clinic, and wanted to interview him. And she heard from the nurses, you can't forget about it, he will not say anything. He doesn't say anything. He is very, very closed. He does not. But as that man realized that she was a researcher that needed his voice and was interested in hearing his voice, then he was talking a lot. And not just much, but very intelligent and very good reflections he had. So that is some mechanisms that happened deep on a deeper level that what we just intend to or what we want to. We all want to be nice people, but we may exclude others because of this power aspect of Foucault, as you mentioned.
Some closing remarks, something but you still inside you and you wanted to share at the very end? If there is something like that. It doesn't have to be.
I want to say I really want you good luck with everything.
Okay, thank you.
I wish you good luck.
44 years ago, it was the premiere of the movie. It was exactly 44 years ago. The title of the movie was The Fly Over the Cuckoo Nest. And I'm sure that it was and it is the historical movie.
Okay.
Perhaps only repeating what I already said, so that the big change in my practice happened 27th of August 1984. Is it Beatles song who says that life is something that happens there when we are making plans for it? So that stop making plans and take actions. Tomorrow is Saturday, but you are going to your work on Monday. Start to do things differently. It's not that big issue, so that it's taken the action.
Thank you very much indeed.